Good morning. Whether you are here with us in person or watching at home, it's good to be with you this morning. It's good for all of us to be together. As we gather this morning, I'd like to begin by sharing a poem by Ruth Bavetta from her book, Flower, Water, Salt. Credo. I believe in fog, drifting silently from the Pacific Ocean. In reading until my eyes burn, I believe in the eyes of dogs, in wild rabbits, in Beethoven's violin concerto, in Joshua trees that stretch their arms against a desert dawn. I believe in not believing in myth, nor in wishful thinking, nor in a supernatural figure who stirs things from above, but I believe in the smell of fresh-cut ginger, sun-baked kelp, orange blossoms in hot August moonlight, and in the grace of a dinner beautifully prepared. Come, my friends, with our hearts open to both the challenges and possibilities that this new day and new week bring, with our hearts open to all that inspires, sustains, redeems, and transforms us. Come, let us worship together.
Went to see the doctor. I'd come down with the blues. She said, no, I can't cure you, but here's something you could do. Take out a piece of paper and go sit down for a while and draw a pretty picture of something that makes you smile. I know it makes me happy. I didn't have to think for long, but when I tried to draw it, it always came out wrong. I had a box of 12, 48, and 64, but nowhere could I find that one shade I was looking for. I guess I realized, should've come as no surprise, Crayola doesn't make a color for your eyes. There is no way that I could possibly describe you. Crayola doesn't make a color to draw my love. At first I thought of green-blue, but then I saw blue-green, and then again in bright light they look aquamarine. I think at night they're darker. I searched again for you, saw gray and black, and went out walking after midnight blue. But hues of the deepest skies would be a compromise. Crayola doesn't make a color for your eyes. There is no way that I could possibly describe you. Crayola doesn't make a color to draw my love. Spring green. Spring green is much too yellow. Sea green is far too pale. Cornflower's way too mellow. I'll try again and fail. There's no way I can capture the way you make me feel. One look from you is rapture, whether blue or green or teal. No color qualifies. That crayon's telling lies. Crayola doesn't make a color. Hey, look, it's periwinkle. So sure I've got it now. But you wink and there's a twinkle in your eye, and still somehow I just can't get that sparkle. Those glitter crayons won't. Maybe glow in the dark will get it right. Oh no, they don't. Mr. Crayola tries, but I'm left to fantasize. Crayola doesn't make a color for your eyes something darker. Let's see what I can find. Melted mahogany, and I got the depth but not the shine. Just about gave up, and then I peeled the paper off a little end. I really thought it could have been not even burnt sienna. Your passport says they're brown, but I'm gonna keep looking around. Crayola doesn't make a color for your eyes. There is no way that I could possibly describe you. Crayola doesn't make a color to draw my love. Crayola doesn't make a color for your eyes. There is no way that I could possibly describe you. Crayola doesn't make a color to draw my love. No color to draw my love.
The flaming chalice is the symbol of the Unitarian Universalist tradition, the liberal religious tradition to which this congregation belongs. Will those of you who are here with us in person this morning please stand as you are able for our chalice lighting? And if you have a chalice at home, I invite you to light it with us at this time. As we kindle this flame, we recommit ourselves to nurturing the spirits of one another and the common good of the world we share. May the light of this flame be welcoming to all who seek a liberal religious home. And for those of you who are already standing, I invite you to remain so for our opening hymn, which is number 361 this morning. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Once again, good morning. My name is Allison Hurwitz, and I am so glad to serve as part of your worship team this morning. Whether you are a first-time visitor or a long-time member, I'd like to offer you a special welcome. Here at the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Raleigh, we are intentionally inclusive, liberally religious, and actively serving the common good of our shared world. Whoever you are, and wherever you are on your own personal spiritual journey, you are welcome here. If you are visiting us for the first time in person, I invite you to stop by our welcome stand in the foyer if you haven't already done so. Fill out our visitor form, get a name tag, and pick up one of our pamphlets to find out more about UUFR and Unitarian Universalism. And if you are visiting us online today, I invite you to fill out the visitor form at uufr.org/visitor form. If you do this, you'll start receiving our weekly newsletter. While Reverend James, our lead minister, is away for study leave, Rachel Wellon will be sharing a message with us this morning. I hope all of you will read through the chalice that you received by email on Friday about everything that's happening here around UUFR. And I'd like to highlight one particular announcement because I am also on the welcome team. And in preparation for our transition to 2 services, which is coming up so soon on September the 8th, we are in search of friendly, smiling folks to join our welcome team as greeters, ushers, welcome stand volunteers, and baristas. You will find more information and a sign-up link in the chalice. Please help us make our community ever more connected, kind, and welcoming. Our in-person social hour this morning will be downstairs after the service in Founders Hall. And if you're new, just follow everyone going down the stairs and turning to the right and then the left. And now I invite you to meet and greet your neighbor.
Our thing is gone.
I'm sorry?
So we'll do joys and sorrows, and then we're on.
Okay, Sterling? Are you okay to bend down?
I'm totally okay.
Okay, sounds good.
So are we doing this before joys and sorrows?
Yes. Oh, I think that Time for All Ages, yes, for sure.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
And I'm going to
It's
talk.
not
I'm going to
important.
talk for a little bit first, and then you guys will.
So I come in from the right, she's from the
Yeah.
left, and do we walk down together?
All right, friends. Hello, how are you? We have a special Time for All Ages today. We usually have Time for All Ages only on first Sundays, but something special is happening this week for a lot of children and teens. Does anyone know what's happening this week? School for many of our children and teens. Tomorrow is the first day of school for a new year. And I'd love to know how many children or teens here have school starting this upcoming week. Raise your hand if you are starting school this week. Okay. Maybe you've already started school. Raise your hand if you've already started school. Oh my gosh. Oh gosh, we are late on our backpack blessing. Well, I apologize, but I'm so glad you're here, because better late than never. I'm curious how people feel about the new school year. Are we feeling like, amazing, this is going to be the best year? Are we feeling, I don't know, a little uncertain? Or are we feeling like, oh, I'm really bummed about having to get up early? How are we feeling? Thumbs up, thumbs down, side? Okay, yeah. Seeing a mixture? Yeah. I always felt a bit mixed up. I was excited about seeing my friends who I hadn't seen for a couple months. I was really interested in meeting new teachers who might be kind of cool or interesting. I was really excited about learning new things. I will never forget learning to read the word squirrel in first grade. I thought that was the best thing ever. But also, I had to get up too early when it was too cold. I'd have homework to do. There'd be a lot more rules throughout the day. And maybe the hardest part was I often felt pretty lonely in a big, noisy cafeteria. I think it makes sense to actually feel a little bit mixed up at the beginning of school year. A little sad that summer's over, a little excited about all the new possibilities, nervous about what's going to happen. There's so much new stuff ahead of you. And most of it will probably turn out okay and sometimes even wonderful, but likely there are going to be hard spots too. And so, today we are going to do something together to honor the start of this new year. We are going to do a blessing of the backpacks. And so, if you have brought a backpack this morning or any other kind of bag, I invite you to bring it forward and place it right in this area. You can come up now, and all ages are invited to participate. Okay, we're gonna make a big pile right here. Yes. Today, it's my daughter, just so you guys know. Today before us, we have backpacks and bags to be carried to and from school and work by the children, youth, and even adults of this congregation. And over the coming days and months, these bags will carry books to read, problems to solve, pictures to draw, projects started and finished, tablets, laptops, and other gadgets galore. They will contain lunches and snacks and probably wrappers and crumbs. And some days they will feel very heavy, some days very light. But right now we're going to put a few more things inside of these bags. And you may not see these things, but they'll be inside, stuffed down way deep so they won't fall out. And Rachel and Allison are going to help me put these things inside. Do you already have your scoopers? Oh, excellent. Okay. The first thing we're going to put inside is our hope for all of you. We're putting inside our hope that this school year will be full of wonderful moments. We're putting inside our hopes that you will make good friends, learn things that excite you, and develop many new skills that will help you wherever you want to go. The second thing we're putting inside is our faith in all of you, our belief in you. We hope that this school year will be absolutely wonderful, but we also know that all of us sometimes will face difficult problems. Sometimes it's a problem about dividing fractions. Sometimes it's a problem about you and your best friend getting into a fight. Sometimes it's a problem about standing up for what's right, which is never easy to do. But all of us here in this congregation have faith in you. We believe in your ability to solve whatever problems you may face this coming year, especially with a little help from your friends, your parents, and all the other people who love and care about you. And the final thing we're putting in these backpacks is our love and care for all of you. Wherever you take these backpacks and all the other bags this school year, remember that you take the love and care of everyone in this congregation. And our belief that you are wonderful and worthy of love, just exactly as you are right now. We actually hope you'll share some of that love and care with everyone you meet in this new school year. So 3 new things we have put in your bags and backpacks: our hope for you, our belief in you, and our love and care for you. So they may seem a bit heavier now, but hopefully not too much. Hope, faith, and love are pretty light to carry. In 201 Peace Hall this morning, our children and teens who are wanting to join us have the opportunity to decorate a button that we will be attaching to their backpacks to remind them of what they carry from this congregation. So it is now time to pick up your backpacks. We're going to do this step by step, so listen carefully. If you are in kindergarten or younger, could you please come forward first? And if you are in elementary school, can you start coming forward now? Elementary school students. If you are going into middle school or high school, can you please come forward now? And if you are studying at university or college, can you come forward? It is exciting, I agree. And any adults, come forward now. As people are picking up their bags, I want to remind you that after service, we are celebrating the new school year with a Sunday Sunday. That means there is ice cream downstairs outside of Founders Hall. And a little fun fact that you might not remember from Reverend James's sermon last year, but Sundays were actually invented on a Sunday over 100 years ago by a Unitarian ice cream shop owner who wanted to create a new dessert to share with his minister after a church service. Our faith has been celebrating sweet new beginnings for a long time. And so now it is time for us to sing our children and youth out of the sanctuary for Sunshine Circle and for our project in Peace Hall for first grade and up. If you are a parent of a kindergartner, preschooler, or someone going to the nursery, we ask that you as a parent escort them to Sunshine Circle or nursery, and then you can return back to the sanctuary. Let us go now in peace.
This is the time in our service when we acknowledge some of the joys and sorrows of our community. We do this because we believe a joy shared is a joy made greater, and a sorrow shared is made easier to bear. Anyone is invited to fill out our joys and sorrows form on the front page of our website or in the chalice by midnight on Friday. Anyone may also light a candle before the service, and if they wish, fill out one of our cards by hand so their joy or sorrow can be shared with the congregation. This morning, Bev Manifold shares that her niece unexpectedly passed away on August 22nd, 2024. We hold Bev and her family in our hearts as they navigate this very difficult time. And as we hold this shared sorrow in our hearts and reflect on the joys, sorrows, fears, and hopes of our own lives, let's be together in stillness and in silence, opening ourselves to that spirit within us and amidst us, called by many names, but known to every human heart, that leads us to a fuller, deeper, richer experience of life. After the silence, we will sing hymn 391, Voice Still and Small. But for now, let's be together in stillness and silence.
Still and small, deep inside all, I hear you call, singing. In dark and rain, sorrow and pain, still you remain, singing, calming my fears, quenching my tears, through all the years, singing.
Everything we do here at UUFR is only possible because of the generous financial support that so many of you provide. If you would like to make an offering this morning, we invite you to bring it forward and put it in one of the plates at the head of each aisle. And if you would prefer to have an usher come to you, just raise your hand. You may also give using one of the methods that will shortly be displayed on the screen. Our offering will now be given and gratefully received. I'd like to share a reading with you this morning. This is an excerpt from lines written a few miles above Tintern Abbey by William Wordsworth. And I have felt a presence that disturbs me with the joy of elevated thoughts, a sense sublime of something far more deeply interfused, whose dwelling is the light of setting suns and the round ocean and the living air and the blue sky, and in the mind of man, a motion and a spirit that impels all thinking things, all objects of all thought, and rolls through all things.
God is a pure new thing, concealed in now and here. The less you reach, the more God will appear. God is a pure new thing, concealed in now and here. The less you reach, the more God will appear. God is a pure new thing, concealed in now and here. The less you reach, the more God will appear. God is a pure new thing, concealed in now and here. The less you reach, the more God will appear.
Good morning. It's good to be with everyone today. It feels like it's been a while since I've been up in front of you giving the message, and it has been. I was thinking the other day about some of the topics I've talked about, and I realized I've been circling the particular topic we're going to talk about today for a while. And I've been sort of anxious to get into it because it's been on my mind. And then our own dear Sandy Pierce gave me the perfect opening to get in it, so to speak. Now, a few days ago, I was talking with Sandy. And Sandy had been at our social hour the week before and had been chatting with a new visitor. When the visitor asked, kind of out of nowhere from what I gathered, "Do you believe in God?" Sandy said yes, but not in the big guy in the sky sitting in a throne kind of way. And I guess the conversation continued on from there, and hopefully the visitor has come back. But listening to Sandy tell the story, I was struck by a couple of things. I think Sandy was a bit shocked the question had come up at all. In all fairness, it's not a common icebreaker in the world of Unitarian Universalism. The G word, so to speak, doesn't come up often around here, and when it does, it's usually in a vague, innocuous sort of way that doesn't invite much discussion or discomfort. But from my perspective, I think, do you believe in God is actually a fantastic question. It's certainly an interesting one. And within the confines of a religious community, which we are, perhaps it's the most important question of all. Now, some of you may know that I was part of the search committee that helped Reverend James select our new assistant minister. And in that process, I got to go out to dinner with James and the candidates when they came to Raleigh. Now, if you've attended recruitment dinners before, you know how these things go. You chat and you eat and you try not to embarrass yourself. The meal may be free, but it's sometimes not a lot of fun. Now, at every dinner, James asked me one specific question. Rachel, imagine James's voice and me talking right now. What do you think is the biggest challenge facing Unitarian Universalism today? And I told everyone sitting at the table what I'm going to tell you right now, which is I think there's a disconnect between what some of our long-standing members feel comfortable with regarding God and spirituality and what some of our newer members are in fact seeking, which is more of a deeper connection with a higher power that's personal to them. A higher power for which, for our purposes today, I'll call God. Now, Reverend James has spoken about this before, so it shouldn't be a new topic. Many of our long-standing members are refugees from, let's say, more traditional, conservative religions. Organized religion, and I'm thinking about some particular Christian denominations here in particular, has hurt many people in the name of a so-called loving God. Zealots have held out and enforced standards for righteous living that often seem cruel and arbitrary. Now, many people do try to stay in the faith of their youth, but they find the rules unfair, impossible to follow, and often cruel. Now, I've seen this cruelty firsthand. When I was 12, my mother found out my father had been having multiple affairs. Now, my mom had been raised as a primitive Southern Baptist and had been taught in her church from an early age that divorce is a mortal sin. Do it at the peril of your eternal life. And in 14 years of marriage, she had tolerated a lot of intolerable things, but she found she couldn't tolerate infidelity. So she separated from my dad and filed for divorce. And she ended up being shunned in our church because of it. They wanted her to tolerate the intolerable because to do so otherwise would be a sin. But here's the thing, it didn't work. Mom still divorced my father, and the betrayal by her church family hurt my mother more than my father ever did. Now, my mother ultimately found a different Methodist church to attend. She didn't let the failings of other humans impugn her God. But a lot of people would have gone the other way and damned religion out of hand. I know that's the way I went. I was irate as a young teen, and I damned Christianity for decades on my mom's behalf, even though she hadn't gone there. You couldn't drag me into a church for anything other than weddings and funerals, and even then, I didn't really want to go. Now, the Unitarian Universalist religion has traditionally served as a refuge of sorts for people like my mother, people who were hurt by religion, but who still wanted, let's say, a more gentle religious community of sorts, whether for their children to grow up in or just to have the comfort of something familiar but safe. But these days, it seems fewer of our newer members are refugees from traditional religions, although some certainly are. They're more often refugees from secular society. Starting in the 1960s, religious affiliation and regular church attendance in the United States began to decline. By 2020, from the statistics I've seen, only 59% of Americans identified as religious at all, and only 30% of that figure attended service on a regular basis. What that means is 7 out of 10 Americans now either abstain from church entirely or go irregularly at best. And this trend is likely to continue for the immediate future. At the same time, society has become more fractured, more contentious, and just more difficult and inhospitable at best. Now, I don't often quote the Apostle Paul, but sometimes it is appropriate. And as Paul wrote in his letter to Timothy, "But understand that in the last days there will come times of difficulty. For people will be lovers of self, lovers of money, proud, arrogant, abusive, disobedient, ungrateful, unholy, heartless, unappeasable, slanderous, without self-control, brutal, and not loving good." Now, just to clarify, I'm not saying we're in the biblical last days, because we're not. But sometimes it feels that way to me. The planet is in one giant environmental crisis, weather is extreme, economic disparity is at record highs, and Paul's words to Timothy, I think, accurately reflect at least a good portion of modern life. Families are scattered, people feel isolated, politics has divided us, people in the media spread hatred and disinformation. The world, again, at least to me, feels like an unsafe place. So people arrive at our doors seeking something, seeking community, seeking a spiritual connection to the universe, which some might call God. And we at UUFR do a lot of things very well. Through One Wake, we advocate for affordable housing. Our volunteers build homes with Habitat for Humanity. We open our doors to the homeless on red flag nights when it's too cold to sleep outside. We work towards become a carbon neutral campus. We do our small part to make the world a better place. We're out there in the community trying to be a difference. And our activism raises our profile in the community. And I know it attracts a lot of visitors to our fellowship. And our activism keeps a lot of people here too. But some people who arrive here were never scarred by religion, who perhaps grew up unchurched. They were living isolated lives in an often terrifying world, and they were looking for a connection with other people and perhaps a connection with God. Again, the G word. And like Sandy's friend at Social Hour, they weren't afraid to talk about it. They want to talk about it openly, whether or not we at UUFR feel comfortable with the conversation at times. And if they can't have that conversation, they may not stay. I know of one family who came to UUFR for a time, liked it well enough, but went back to the Episcopal Church because they weren't getting quite what they needed spiritually. It was a tick too secular here, and they didn't feel like they were Unitarian enough. And I think that, for a lack of a better word, is just sad. And truth be told, I've heard rumblings of that sort among newish members and visitors. People who love what we do here, but somehow something feels a tick lacking. They don't feel like they're getting quite enough spiritually. People who have quietly wondered if there might be a better place for them elsewhere. And if I'm being 100% honest with you today, and I always try to be, some days I'm one of them. Every person who walks into UUFR, whether a member, a long-term friend, or visitor, is an integral part of our spiritual community. We need them. And because we're a covenant community versus a creedal community, our tent is big enough for everyone. We don't want people to decide they don't belong here because they don't fit spiritually, because they do. So what do we as a congregation do? I think it's time we started talking more openly about our higher powers. We as individuals in a congregation need to get more comfortable with being open and sharing with each other about what we believe spiritually. We need to get more comfortable with receiving in a non-judgmental way what we are given in return. Now, I'm not saying that doesn't happen already or that we're necessarily bad at it. We just need more practice. I think that level of sharing needs to become a part of our spiritual practices. I can guess the political orientation of almost everyone here. I'm not allowed to talk about politics, but I'll just toss that out there. I know your social values through the work we do here collectively, but what I don't know about the vast majority of you is what connection you have with eternity, the great mysteries of the universe, that higher power one might call God. And I feel confident that whether you're an atheist or a believer of sorts, you have some connection you cherish, even if you can't quite articulate it. And I, for one, would like to know what that connection is. I once told James, if I ever get up in the pulpit and told people what I really believe, he'd have calls for the congregation on Monday. It's true. But here I am calling on us as a congregation to be more open to sharing our spiritual beliefs. And if I do that, I need to be more willing to do the same. You deserve to know more of my journey and what I believe. So here we go. Until January 2020, I was a self-described agnostic. I didn't believe much of anything. To me, religion and God were just concepts created by men to explain what couldn't be explained or understood. People want answers to the unknown, and a big guy in the sky, God, is a good enough explanation for whatever can't yet be known or understood. I looked around at the chaos of the world and what we do to each other, and that seemed evidence enough to me that God did not exist, at least not in my neighborhood. I couldn't prove that God didn't exist, but it didn't seem likely, and for the most part, I didn't give a damn. But Flannery O'Connor once wrote, "Faith comes and goes. It rises like the tide of an invisible ocean. If it's presumptuous to think that faith will stay with you forever, it's just as presumptuous to think that unbelief will." And I was presumptuous in my disbelief to the point of arrogance. God comes in the light. That's what they say, and that's how it was for me. I can't explain it to you. Human words are inadequate. But one cold night in January, the light changed in my room, and I found myself, spiritually at least, elsewhere. I wasn't seeking anything. It wasn't even a drug flashback. But it found me anyway. Not a person, just energy and spirit, but glorious and beautiful. Was she the Spirit of God or an angel? I don't know. I have my guess, but my answer changes all the time. But I can tell you this. She was as large as the universe, as old as the universe, and more powerful than any human mind can comprehend. I can tell you in that moment, I realized my soul is much older than I could ever imagine. But compared to her, and I use her for a very specific reason, I'm barely an infant. And I can tell you that when I'm finally finished on this earth, I will return to her because I'm hers. But what I experienced most was her love for me, her perfect love, She knew me for who I am, and she knew me for what I've done, both good and bad. And there was nothing from her but perfect acceptance and love. Call it grace. She gave me grace in the knowledge that I'm not alone, ever. She is with me. I believe she's with all of us. Since that night, that cold night in January, I've tried to live my life in a way to deserve the love she gave me. Even though her love is not conditioned on anything, I still try. I try to give the same love and grace to everyone and everything in my life. I try to show up and participate to the best of my abilities. I say yes when I'm asked to do things if I can, even if sometimes I don't really want to. Jesus once taught, faith without works is dead. And I believe that love without works is also dead. And acting with love can sometimes be a difficult, inconvenient, and at times counterintuitive choice. It's a hard path to take. But how many of our greatest spiritual teachers have in some way told us that it's the only path worth pursuing? And the answer is, I think, all of them. As a Unitarian Universalist, love is at the center of everything we do. It compels us in our actions. And for me, that love is God, because for me, God is love. There's little more for me to say. You now know me better. Believe what you want to about my story, but I hope that you get something from it. And maybe, just maybe, someone listening will recognize a part of their own story. Perhaps it will give help or give comfort to someone one day. And for the same reasons, I implore you to share your truths openly and without embarrassment. The story of each and every one of us is remarkable and worth being told. I implore you to listen to others' stories without judgment, because in them you might find something you need one day. The stories we hear and the conversations we have with each other become part of us in our journey, and it makes our lives here richer. Every story comprises a small part of the collective human experience through which we can perhaps find a stronger connection to our higher power. Just remember, I don't believe there's one truth or path to it, only that it is your calling as a human being to try to find your way back to your higher self, what some people might call your soul. And sharing our spiritual journeys with each other is one way to make that path easier. And so may it be. Amen.
Thank you so much, Rachel. And will you please stand as you are able for our closing hymn, which is hymn number 100, I've Got Peace Like a River.
I've got peace like a river. I've got peace like a river. I've got peace like a river in my soul. I've got peace like a river. I've got peace like a river. I've got peace like raindrops in my soul. I've got strength like the mountains. I've got strength like a mountain. I've got strength like a mountain in my soul. I've got strength like a mountain. I've got strength like a mountain. I've got strength like a mountain in my soul.
As we end this time of worship together, may we do so with ever more love for one another, with ever more gratitude for this precious gift of life we share this very day, with ever more peace in our hearts, and with ever more hope for our own lives and this world we share. Amen.
I really like the offertory too. Very sweet. The lovely memories. Yeah, good name for it. It is a lovely piece. Do what? Lithuania? Yeah. Ah.